Well, hello, bonjour, welcome back. Hope you had a great lunch. I'm Dave Kelly. I'll be here for the rest of the day and for tomorrow as well. Those of you looking for translations for any of these segments, they're on Swapcard and they work tremendously. We have an incredible afternoon. We're going to be talking about the rise of agentic AI. We're going to talk about AI and cybersecurity. We're going to talk about AI and the future of energy. All that's coming up. But first, enterprise AI, the next frontier of business innovation. I'm pleased to introduce one of Canada's global AI champions, co-founder of Cohere, Nick Frost, and welcome back, reporter at Time Magazine, Harry Booth, as our moderator. Take it away, folks.
Nick, thanks for joining me this afternoon. That was quite the dramatic countdown, wasn't it?
I liked the countdown, yeah.
I wanted to go back to the very first time we spoke. You were not actually in Cohere's office. You were in the back of a tour bus with your band as a musician.
Yeah.
It doesn't really fit my stereotype of the AI company co-founder who, is at the computer all day at night. Have you figured out something about work-life balance that I haven't quite cracked yet? Or are you benefiting from handing your work off to AI? What's going on there?
Yeah, I think probably more the second than the first. Yeah, just for a bit of background, I play in an indie pop rock band. We tour for a few weeks of the year. When I tour, I work out of the back of a bus. So I play a show, I go to sleep, I wake up, I work out of the back of a bus and sometimes talk to you, and then play more shows. I am at the computer all the time. It's just that computer is mobile, and the computer is in a bus. I do use our agentic platform, North, to do as much of my work as possible.
Well, I'm going to come back to that.
That is true, yeah.
But I did want to ask, does being a musician, is that just kind of relief from running an AI company, or do you think it makes you a better technologist?
I think it makes me a better thinker. Yeah, to give an honest answer, this industry is often ungrounded, is often unhooked from what's actually going on. And doing something as immediate as playing music and performing, I find quite helpful for my mind. It's very grounding to do something that is in the now, in the immediate, that is very old. People playing music and doing it pretty much the same since they started. So I find that quite helpful. I also find it as a good stress relief, but I think it's important to me to think about things beyond technology and to stay grounded in the immediate and the practical and the real. So I like it for that reason.
Well, while we're talking about keeping things grounded, you mentioned you're using your own AI tools to achieve as much of your work as possible. I think last month you unveiled your new enterprise platform, North. Tell me about how you're using that.
Yeah, so North is our agentic platform. It's built for secure enterprise deployments. It's built for augmentation and automation in the workforce. So we deploy our foundational models, our search stack, and then this front end, effectively, into an enterprise, and then employees within that business can use it to augment and automate their work. I use it as a co-founder all the time. I used it to help me prepare for this interview.
Go on.
Yeah, and to tell me about the times we've spoken in the past and the things you've written. I use it to prepare me for most of my meetings these days, but it is used widely across Cohere and indeed with our customers like RBC, like Dell, like LG, to name a few, are all using it internally for their workforce.
Cohere has made a very strategic decision to go after the enterprise rather than consumer products. And in some sense, that's a differentiation, it's a marketing question, but it's borne out in the products themselves. So tell me about how something like North is different from your off-the-shelf, Chat GPT Pro or whatever.
Yeah, it's quite a bit different, and it comes with a difference in our perspective on the technology. So there's about 10 companies in the world that can build foundational models. So not very many, right? It's very difficult technology to build. There's maybe 10 companies in the world that can build it. And we are unique amongst those 10 in our singular focus on the enterprise. So we do not build a consumer application. We just make foundational models and interfaces for using them for enterprise. The reason for that is a philosophical difference in where we think the technology is most valuable. I really think this technology is most helpful in augmentation and automation in the workforce. There's a huge amount of work that I do behind a computer that I don't want to do. There's a huge amount of work that I find boring and unempowering and time-consuming. And I am better spending my time on the interesting, on the strategic, on the creative, and using an LLM to help me do those things by augmenting and automating these other tasks. In my personal life, I don't feel that as much. I don't want to respond to texts from my family faster, right? I don't want to use an LLM to summarize my Christmas emails. I do want to use an LLM to help me do an analysis of our sales over the past year. I do want to use an LLM to automate responding to customer service requests. I do want to use an LLM to help me prepare for meetings. So that makes us focus on the LLM for the enterprise. In terms of how that philosophical difference bears out into our product, it means that we build for the enterprise first. It means we build for security first. It means we build for customization first. It means we build for efficiency first. So those are all blockers. Over the past few years, you will have seen lots of enterprises build cool demos, but then not get into production. And not get into production because they couldn't deploy securely, or because it cost too much to get into production, or because they couldn't get the model to speak the right language or to know the right things. Those are all things we build for from the ground up.
Seems like a big part of the value in what you're talking about here is essentially an LLM that's very grounded in the context of your organization, the work you do. I mean, you mentioned analyzing sales data. Customer service obviously requires deep knowledge of product, or in this case, preparing for meetings, knowing what interactions you've had with someone in the past. But you also mentioned security as a focus. I think to a lot of people that would sound like that's intention, to have a tool that sucks in all the data from all the things you're already using, but does it securely. How are you thinking about that?
That's a great question. Those things are not intention at all. And they're not intention because of a technological solution that we have. So if you are calling a model hosted by one of the consumer players, most likely that model is sitting on a server, your data is sitting on another server, and you send that data over the internet to them, and you get a response back. That's mostly how network-hosted APIs work. We take our model, and we put it into your environment. So we put it on-prem, on GPUs you might have. We could put it on virtual private cloud. We can deploy wherever your data is, and then we do not see what goes in and out of that model. So that model exists in your infrastructure, and as a business, you know that you're the only person who has access to that data, and the model processes it and does not send anything elsewhere. So those two things are not at odds at all. We really focus on that. I mean, you said earlier it's important for an LLM to have access to the real data. That's very true. An LLM is really only as useful as the data it has access to. You'd be hard-pressed, if you tried to hire somebody and you didn't tell them anything about what your business was doing. They probably wouldn't add very much value. That's exactly the same with a large language model. So we deploy our AI, our foundational models, and our agentic framework into your environment, and then you can give it all data knowing that it will not go anywhere else.
So what's that process like? Because it sounds like, yes, there's a security benefit, but it's not as simple as make an account and sign up and start using today. There's an onboarding process there, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So the onboarding process is pretty quick. We just need to know where we're deploying that, and we will deploy on the order of weeks.
Okay.
or less. Yeah. It's pretty, it's surprisingly easy. We just need to know where we're deploying. We build a model that is very efficient to deploy. So we've gone out of our way to make a model that has a very small hardware requirement. Our model requires about 2 GPUs to run at scale. To put that into comparison, DeepSeek, a model that on our enterprise data we outperform, requires about 16 to 32 GPUs to get at the same speed. So we make a very efficient model, and we can deploy that wherever we need to.
And while we're talking about deployments, coming back to North, you mentioned how you're using it yourself. I understand there's some early customers already using it. What's the reception?
Oh yeah,
like?
There's many early customers using it. One of the ones we're really proud of is RBC. They've rolled it out through RBC Assist V2. We're very excited about the work that their employees are doing with it already, and the reception has been great. Yeah. There's certainly more to go. We're certainly always building, but the reception has been great.
I guess, one thing I think is interesting there, with your work with RBC, I understand that there is a sort of banking specific or financial services specific version of North. Seems like a bit of a tension in the AI industry broadly between trying to build very general purpose tools that maybe are kind of good for everyone but not quite right, versus like more tailored to that particular industry or particular task. How are you thinking about that trade-off?
Yeah, that's a good question. We think about the customization of both the model and the interface a lot. We think it's actually very important to get out of the demo and get into production. So with RBC, we're creating North for banking, for the financial industries, by tailoring the types of tools that the model has access to and the things that it's good at. We've done something similar with LG in Korea, making a model that's particularly good at Korean, Fujitsu in Japan, making a model that's particularly good at Japanese. Your question has beneath it ideas of how much better are the general models going to get, right? Like that's, I think, on a lot of people's minds. And I think we've seen over the past year that general purpose models are kind of plateauing. We've made some pretty exceptional improvements over the past years. LLMs have gotten a lot better, but certainly the speed of improvement was faster last year than it is this year. So I think a crucial component now of making this technology truly useful is customizing it, both the model itself and the interface to use it for the particular needs of a company.
To push back a little bit, there's been quite a lot of progress, at least on certain tasks in, let's say, mathematics, certain scientific reasoning benchmarks from reasoning models. Is that something Cohere is working on?
We've released a reasoning model, a reasoning model that is specific for enterprise tool use. So a really interesting thing is if you take a quote-unquote reasoning model that's been trained how to reason on math, and then you ask it to use enterprise tools, you take a reasoning model and say, hey, I want you to cross-reference our sales data with some emails that I got and make a chart, a dashboard telling me what's going on. It will not do well on those tools. So a reasoning model might do well on the things it's trained on, but if you want it to be good at reasoning on enterprise data with enterprise tools, it needs to be trained on that specifically. There has been a lot of progress, for sure, but I think we can see over the past year, the experience of a person using a model hasn't changed very much.
Right. And I think your broader point about to actually make the models useful takes more than them just getting smarter. What I've been seeing in my reporting is there's kind of this gap between what people expect the models to be able to do right out of the box and then what they actually can do. And sometimes businesses or workers kind of get caught in that gap and squeezed in the middle. But closing that gap doesn't necessarily always require better models. It's sometimes a case of just having better applications, better connections, better scaffolding around them. Is that what you're...
Sometimes it requires better scaffolding, better connections, better tools, better integrations, and sometimes it requires training the model more on that specific use case. Right.
You've mentioned that a couple of times in this conversation, this kind of struggle to go from demo to something that people at a company actually want to use in their work. There was this widely cited study out of MIT that found that something like 95% of AI pilots are not delivering ROI.
Yeah.
What do you sort of think are the key things businesses need to think about to let's say, end up on the 5% that is delivering ROI side of that equation?
Yeah, I would start by saying that certainly hasn't been our experience.
Okay.
The customers we work with, are perhaps the opposite of that, of those numbers. We're always only interested in getting into production. We're always only interested in getting, like my whole mantra these days has been ROI, not AGI. It has always been about building something useful, immediate, helpful today. And so we've seen that in our customers. We're getting to real production deployments very fast. I think my advice for companies when thinking about how to get in that 5%, one is talk to us. I think that's clear. Two would be to build with production in mind. So think about the blockers that are going to come in your way in between a cool demo and production. So one of them is security. Like, are you going to be blocked by legal because you can't send your data somewhere? That's happened all the time. Another is cost. If you're paying per token, what happens if you build something good? How much is that actually going to be? Is per token going to be prohibitive? It often is. Another is does it have access to the data that you need it to have access to? It's one thing to say, hey, look, I put in fake documentation, and now it could search the internet. It's another thing to have a model that has access to the tools within your enterprise, the tools that your employees, your workforce are using. So I would build with production in mind. Yeah.
We're in Montreal, one of the holy sites of AI development. You're at the helm of Canada's front runner, working with some major Canadian enterprises. You mentioned RBC, Bell is among your clients. Do you think in a conversation that's very dominated by US, China, is this something that enterprises outside of Canada have something to learn from what's going on in Canada?
That's an interesting question. Yeah, you're right to point that out. There's really only 3 countries in the world that can build this technology, right? There's China, there's America, there's us here in Canada. There's not many companies in many countries that have this. And I think
our European friends are very upset right now.
Oh, sorry, and France, thank you. I think, a lot of countries are interested in working with companies that are outside of China and America. And I think that's in part because of our grounded practical approach. I think in the States, there's an enormous amount of hyperbole, there's an enormous amount of hype, and a lot of the rest of the world is very excited about building something real and tangible. And that is something we are known for here. And we should be proud of that. And especially like in Montreal at this incredible conference, I think we should all as builders be a little more vocal about our dedication to building real things. And that's something that certainly when we speak to international companies, that's something that they speak to and see.
I think there is this feeling, this worry that Canada is really good at doing the research that's going to pave the way to the future, but then someone else, not to name names, takes the research and scales it up and turns it into
Historically, that has been what we've been doing, yes.
I think it was announced this morning, you guys have just closed another 100 million, correct me if I'm wrong on the numbers,
that's correct.
worth of fundraising, puts your valuation at $7 billion. We're talking about serious scale. Is there lessons you wish other Canadian tech companies could take away from that success?
I hope other people in Canada. When I was in undergrad, I went to University of Toronto, and there was very much a mantra of like valley or bust. Like everybody wanted to go to San Francisco, and that was like a meme amongst the students there. I don't hear that as much anymore. I still hear it a little bit, but I see a lot more people interested in building and staying in Canada. I hope our success makes that vision more clear. You can build in Canada. This is a great place to build a global company. There are a lot of interesting things here. There's a lot of interesting companies and excited, practical people, and the world is interested in working with us. So I hope the success we've had today makes that more apparent for everybody thinking about starting something here. Yeah.
One of the biggest stories in the AI industry over the last year has been the talent wars. We're seeing companies paying eye-watering amounts to get the brightest minds on their team. There's also, let's say, a scuttle and a debate over visas south of the border right now. Do you think there's an opportunity for Canada there to kind of attract more talent from overseas students that maybe would have gone to the Bay Area but now have to explore other options?
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. I think there's a lot of people looking where in the world can they work, where can they build their lives, where can they settle their families. Canada is a great place to live and a great place to work, and we have benefited from that already. We've certainly had the privilege of working with lots of people who grew up in Canada, who are educated here, or people who moved to Canada to build their lives here. And that's, yeah, it's very clear that people want to do that. And we have been successful in bringing people here to build with us.
I want to come back to something you said earlier in this conversation. It's a bit of a mantra of yours. ROI, not AGI.
It's pithy, eh?
It's pithy, it's savvy, it sounds good. But I worry that, just focusing on an immediate return on investment might leave something on the table. Like some of the biggest tech breakthroughs in history have come from more exploratory research that hasn't really had an immediate return in mind.
Well, I think you misinterpret me.
Okay.
Yeah.
Tell me why.
I think to say I don't, not AGI, it's a mistake to assume that all breakthroughs, all research is done in the pursuit of AGI.
No, I mean, that's not what I'm saying.
Like we've published 100 papers since our founding. We do a bunch of work with the open science community. We continue to make breakthroughs in technology. I just don't think that those breakthroughs in technology lead to whatever most people think of as AGI, right? Like that term itself is still underdefined. So when I say not AGI, I mean not a human-like intelligence. I don't think LLMs, even scaled up, are going to get us to a human-like intelligence. Nor do I hear that ask from our customers. Like they don't say, hey, we would love it if you could make a tiny human to put in my computer. Instead, I hear them say, hey, how can I get more efficient at analyzing quarterly reports? How can I get faster at processing visa applications? How can I get better how can I lift boring work off of my employees and do something better? So we do scientific breakthroughs for the purposes of driving the utility of that technology.
Right, but I guess what I'm asking is maybe just some of the technological breakthroughs of the past have come, like in this case it's AGI, but more generally from just like blue sky thinking. I mean, if you ask customers what they wanted before the automobile was invented,
Say a faster horse.
They would have said a faster horse, right? And so I'm worried that if we're asking our customers, what do you want from AI, they're going to tell you we want faster horses, but there's something else there. So if you're saying, no, we are doing blue sky thinking at Cohere, I want to hear what is your vision. If it's not AGI, what's your kind of alternate vision for really radically transformative technology?
Yeah, no, it's a subtle distinction. And like I understand like the whole world is talking about AGI. And the idea of like that being the objective. Like, hey, like all we should be building is towards the pursuit of digital people. It's very unclear to me that we want that. I don't wake up and say, wow, I wish there were digital people. I say, wow, I wish my work life was easier. I wish my computer was better. I wish I could spend more time grounded in the immediate. Like there's all kinds of things that I wish for. None of them are really digital people. So we do And I also don't think that this technology will get us there. So we do lots of work on making the technology better, right? Like a lot of our work is done with the open scientific community through Cohere Labs. We publish with academic institutes all over the world. And we've pushed the frontiers of how the technology works. We've been leaders in multilingual development, which has required tons of novel architectural and learning regime changes. So we continue to push things like that, but we don't do it on the promise of some future digital superintelligence.
I've heard you say in the past that you see AI as an augmentative technology more so than something that's going to replace people. My concern is maybe it's neither in terms of the technology itself. It really depends on how we use it. Is there something to say here about business leaders thinking about how they can use the tools to provide more value to their customers and do more, rather than just going in with the mindset of how can we replace people with AI?
Yeah, I think that's a good thing to think about. I think when you have a computer that can use language, and you have a large language model, and that model is deployed securely, so it has access to all the data, and it's customized to meet your needs, that can enable completely new ways of interacting with your customer. That can enable completely new products. That doesn't just need to be automating the processes that exist already, although it can do a lot of that as well. When I say I think that technology is fundamentally augmentative, that's because I think a huge amount of the work that we do, an LLM can do better. But not all of the work. By no means all of the work. I think there's lots of work that we do that an LLM is just fundamentally not well equipped to do. Because it doesn't have the social context, because it doesn't have the experience in the real world, because it isn't talking to other people in a people-like way. And so I think this technology fundamentally is predominantly augmentative.
Seems like a great place to end it. Nick, thank you so much for your time.
Thank you.